Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to Critical Reroll, episode 121, where we're going to talk about Critical Role episode 45, The Stowaway. My name is Ben, also known as Bardic Puppy on Twitter, and I have a multitude of colored Christmas cookies.
I am Dusty at GeoNerd on Twitter, and I too have spent a lot of my life in a box.
And I'm Harky, and I'm unprepared for this and forgot that this was a thing, and no one told me. So hi, I'm alive.
Perfect. Awesome. How y'all doing, folks? So this past episode, we got our next, or our most recent guest on the show with Deborah Ann Wall, who was playing Twiggy, the forest gnome rogue, and honestly, one of my favorite guests of all time. Just gonna get right down to it. Her character was amazing from start to finish.
I mean, she's amazing from start to finish,
Yes.
first of all. And then Twiggy is how every gnome should be. And she's beautiful.
I agree. Having gotten to see her do a live stream, I was really excited when they announced that she was going to be a guest, and it was about time. Long overdue, and it was totally worth it.
Do you think, though, that maybe it was a little bit too, obvious and, advertisement-y that, she's on the show now because, she has this new show coming out on Alpha next week, or
I mean, it definitely coincided well to be more than just, oh, I can do this time. But, I mean, it seems like they've been working on that show for a while, too, and it just worked out that... But, there was definitely a, I also have a show!
I believe I remember them hearing something on Talks Machina once about trying to get Deborah Amwell on for a couple years. So I don't think it was just necessarily. It just happened to work out that she was available around the time her show. But
that's true. Also, the sad news about Daredevil probably had something to play with both of those.
Yeah. I mean, that probably freed up a lot of time.
Yeah, she doesn't have a consistent job anymore.
Mm-hmm. So that's probably part of it. But overall, she did an amazing job on Critical Role, and I can't wait to discuss it. So, going right into it, we have the beginning of the episode with them on the ship after getting that second orb from Ford, and going to go get repairs on the ship finally, and not and doing silly stuff with explosives downstairs, which in and of itself is funny because Sam. But I like how he just knew how to throw a reference to Twig being in with the flash of light, and you see a thing of movement, a flash of movement, whenever she not blinded herself. I thought that was really cool. A good way to show, hey, this is a smooth transition into another character.
It's weird. It seemed like they had planned already. They discussed how she was a stowaway on the ship. Either that or Deborah's just really good at improv. But it seemed like Matt and her had talked about this a little bit about how she was on there and what she had going on there. So it was kind of fortuitous that's kind of the first thing that happened in the episode is not going underneath the ship and then trying to make some explosive arrows. But yeah, in comparison to some of the other guests, they definitely got to her very quickly and almost immediately.
Yes. Cough, cough, Tova. That's fine. It was a really good introduction to her character because it got everybody down there. Of course, not Caleb and Bo met her first, and when her entire entrance was not Caleb, Jester. Her entire entrance was amazing. Just the way that she presented her character right off the bat made her memorable. Just with Trixie or Trace, whatever Trixie, I think the squirrel, in her pocket. That was just I was hit off right off the bat, perfect. So
they were the sorry, Dustin. They were the two most perfect characters to meet her, not in Jester, because she's just adorable, and that's all Jester ever wants is a little cute friend.
Uh-huh.
Her and Jester like playing off of each other like instantly and just like all of a sudden being like the best friends was fantastic. Also, what the other thing that I was gonna she'd been in that box for a while, like
Yeah.
so she escaped from Port Damali, but how she's been in there for a while. And I like how almost half of like I remember watching like some of the chat and some not main chat, but like everyone was like instantly like I don't trust her, she's too nice. There was a lot of people that were like it's too nice, and I even like how Bo was just like nah, there's something wrong with someone being that nice. And I'm just like yes, this is the gnomes that I want. These just happy, cheerful, just
Yeah, that's why it was so good that Jester found her. Because, like, can you imagine what would have happened if, like, Caleb had found her?
Oh, yeah. Mm-mm.
Like, there would just be, like, so much questioning and, like, freaking out. And, like, man, it would have been a very different entrance.
Yep. It was a good pair. There actually Jester and Twiggy are very similar in a lot of ways, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'll get to a little bit later when Deborah actually reveals a little bit more of her backstory. But there are comparisons throughout the entire episode about those two.
Yeah, I mean it's very clear when Not questions if they're being replaced because she is basically Jester and Not put together. It's really funny. Yeah. Before that happens though, Not tries to tell Bo in Halfling.
Yeah.
Is that the first time that we've seen them speak Halfling together? I didn't know that Bo spoke that.
I do.
And I also really love Bo's response to Ford's questioning. Just saying like we're saying our daily prayers is called "Get the fuck out of our business." As soon as that happened, I knew that we were in for a good episode.
I think it had been brought up that she does know Halfling like way at the beginning. Because like her father worked with, I think she had made a comment about something about the wine. Because I think she had said something about Halfling, but I don't think they've ever like spoke it to each other or anything like that.
Yeah, I thought that was the first time that happened. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, Axe Lobo in chat said the first time was the first episode that they actually talked about it. I think when they were going over what languages they knew, and I think they both realized, oh, we both know Halfling, and then Sam just keeps that information in the back of his head.
Mm-hmm.
And then was like, hey, remember that thing that we talked about episode 1 at the beginning of this past year? Yeah. Because Sam.
But he's always good at keeping stuff in the side pocket to use later.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something that's not used as often enough, I think, in D&D is inter-party language communication. Everyone just always speaks in common, like for everything basically, and the only times you need to know languages are when you're like trying to read a book or like speaking to a character who is in some faraway place that for some reason doesn't know common, which is pretty rare. So I think it's fun to kind of roleplay that aspect a little bit.
Yeah, it's also with languages, you remember languages more when you speak them, and like I don't feel like they ever speak them enough to really retain the language. Unless they're like innate and like growing up. So, anyway,
not everyone's American, Ben.
It's getting political.
Oh wow. So getting away from politics and going on to the amazing item that Twinkie just happens to have with her. Oh my god, that sphere was probably my favorite item of this entire game so far. I saw it. I'm like, that's a totally me puzzle. It's I think of one of those spheres, and I know it's not the same thing. One of those spheres that has the ball in the middle, and you have to keep twisting it and turning it to try to get it through the path. I love those things. That's kind of what I kept imagining, even though I know you were actually moving stuff around on the outside.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know if I was really as intrigued by it when it was first announced. I was like, this is kind of cool. We'll see where this goes. But I also had no idea really what to expect. But as it started to do things, that's when it got crazy. And now, yeah, it's one of the coolest items ever made.
thought it was one of the coolest items ever made before it was cool.
Well, and so like so obviously Matt and Deborah had a time to talk about this because she was like asking him and I do that thing and it does the thing that we like talked about, and he's like, yeah, money comes out of it. But like Matt gives the guest this item, and this pretty much, he could have had other plans. They're supposed to be sailing, but he gives this item that he describes as being, after they kind of spend some time with it, that it's pre-calamity and it's some sort of a puzzle thing. He knows as a DM that there is no way that the players are not going to just like obsess, or at least there's going to be a couple players that are going to obsess over this to the point where, so it feels like it's a very important thing to just like have dropped, because he could have had a bunch of maps, but he had like the maps for this, because how could you not mess with it? So like
well, I think that's my thing. He definitely planned this entire session that they're probably going to open up this thing and find out what's inside. It was weird to me when they announced that there was going to be a guest, because I was kind of like, well, they're kind of in a position where they're like not going to do anything too exciting right now. They have like a few days of travel, and then they're going to get to the place, and then got to worry about repairing their ship. Like, it's going to take a while before they get to a guest. And then it was kind of interesting how he integrated her with like, no, she's actually on the ship, you just didn't know. And also, here you go, you're going into like an extra planar wizard tower.
Yes.
Instead of actually just being on the ship for a few days and doing other stuff. I'm sure Matt had planned stuff in case that did happen, but I definitely think he was trying to make them do this instead, because it's definitely more of like a one-shotty type of scenario,
especially with like a guest and stuff like that.
So my thought with that is, especially with how he seemed to have the ball designed with spitting out gold, and like how she already knew how to do that just from the little thing. People, even if they don't like puzzles, are interested in gold and getting money, so they're going to keep playing with it to try to get more, and eventually there's going to keep playing with it and open it up. I think that's also can be tied back to the wizard that created the entire thing, because he wants to try to trap people in here. I think that's part of the entire.
I mean, he was giving the dragon food, and that's one way to do that. So one thing that was weird is Matt had them roll investigation checks to actually open it up. And Twiggy is not really interested in money. So I don't know how much she was really playing with that, but she said that she figured out how to do that trick. She's better at investigation than Caleb is, so I don't know how she didn't actually figure out how to do all of these things on her own first. It's kind of weird that she was like, oh, I don't really know how to do it, and then as soon as Caleb was like, let me look, she's like, no, okay, I'm just going to do this whole thing, basically.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. I also don't think that she would have tried all that hard. Like, I just from her personality, until she had friends that were interested in it with her, she's like, it's a thing that I have. I'll play with it a little bit, and then just go back to eating my chocolate and apples.
She's probably very bored.
Yes, that is fair. But
she did talk about how she had a bunch of drawings and other things that she was doing in her bag.
So,
I love how Jester, when they first show the sphere, Jester's like, oh, look, all we have is a dodecahedron, just like bringing it out and showing it to her immediately.
I loved it.
Like, I mean, it's a good thing that she's not a bad person.
Yeah, because that was not the best play, but like, oh, we also have a cool object we keep in our bags.
Yeah, and like it's extra weird because she was already on the ship, so there's definitely like a theory or some sort of idea that she could have been following them on purpose because she maybe knew that they were up to no good, or maybe she's a spy from, Jorhas or whatever. So that could have been really bad.
Yeah,
and anyone other than Jester would not have done that.
Yeah. Not might have. Just like let it slip and then was like, oh, never mind. But not actively showed it. But Is she the first guest that got to actually experience the dodecahedron, or did they show it to the other guests too? I feel like Keg and whatever the other
Shikasta.
folks. Well,
Nala?
Shikasta, Nala, yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think they
Somebody
showed
in
it.
chat might know. We'll know whenever chat knows. But moving on. So they eventually do get the puzzle to be a lot more open than they originally had it, and suddenly, flash of light, and suddenly they're in a new place. But that took a while.
We do get the little mini portal storage where I was really worried someone was going to get their head cut off.
I forgot about that.
But
I thought they were being extra careful for no reason. I thought it was fine. They just need to just go in and do it.
I mean, that's what I was thinking too the whole time. Like, just go in. I mean, just touch everything, please. It's D&D.
It's just a portable hole that collapses in a minute. It's fine.
I know I was in a Discord with Matt, and we were talking about maybe it's like the rope trick kind of thing. Like, just go into it. But they did find some. It was sort of like just a little storage area, and they found the robe and some stuff. And then
you were in a chat with Matthew Mercer.
Yes,
he was telling you about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, while he was playing.
Wow,
also,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know any other Matts or anything.
Who?
Sorry, I derail things.
Chugga chugga. Hang on a second while we get these back on the tracks. Flash of light.
The time that Jester told Twiggy she would show her how to draw the perfect dick. That was one of my
I do remember that offer.
So actually, before they even go into that, another important thing happens, which is kind of cute. Bo asks Ford if she can be his first mate.
Yes. Oh, that's right. I liked that. That was good. I like how they're kind of taking a friendship together.
Yeah.
More than just an alliance, it's now becoming more of a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're really starting to see that with a lot of the characters too. They're all very not trusting people, and except for Jester. Jester's Jester. But
Caduceus is pretty trusting, but he's also pretty good at reading people.
Yeah, he's pretty good at. He also can hide when he needs to, but he knows he doesn't need to, so it's not necessarily trusting as it. Just, I guess it's trusting.
Yeah, it's trusting and sort of just sort of a go with the flow kind of attitude too. So it's just we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Twiggy also talks about Sir Cadigan and like her backstory a little bit.
Yes.
And oh my god, how long do you think it's gonna be before they go seek out Sir Cadigan and just like fuck him up?
I hope so, because the one thing I was talking about earlier that I wanted to reference was but apparently Sir Cadigan had her tied up and locked up for a while, and that's why she's so all over the place. But it's also why she's so happy because it's not that anymore. I heard that, I'm my head just went, oh no.
Yeah, it seemed like she was trapped down there for a long time, and he just enjoyed tormenting her and stuff like that, and it's just yeah, everything about that, I was oh yeah, these guys are gonna go knock on Sir Cadigan's door, because they're what's he look like? Describe him to us. We're putting this in the mental note.
Yeah, it might be a real long time. It might be 10 levels later or something, but they're gonna go seek him out eventually.
I hope so. I hope they find Twiggy again. I hope Deborah comes back. And
I don't think there's any guests I want more than Twiggy forever.
No, yeah, I think I was just can she just be a thing? I mean, just make her show up more often, please.
Yeah, I mean, everyone they have on the show is great. There are some guests that I'm just please stay forever. And then there's Twiggy, who I'm I don't care about any guests anymore.
I've been ruined for guests now because that character was probably one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as we were moving on, then they do actually fully unlock the sphere and things happen.
Yes. The flash of light takes them to the break, and then when they come back from the break, they're suddenly in a room. And at first I wasn't paying that much attention right after the break, sadly, and I should have. But it was like something finally clicked at me. It was like, wait, this is like a dungeon. And then I started to like really hone in on this. This first room, first of all, the ball wasn't there. The whole magic ball mystery of tricks things was not there. And that was, I thought it was going to follow them. And that when they did it, that's when I'm like, this got interesting.
That's when I was like, oh, yep, ancient magic. They probably should have messed with it because it didn't come with them. I'm like, where are you? You don't know where you are. You were just on a ship. What about that poor crew and Yasha, who wasn't in range?
Mm-hmm.
They come down and find, like, just a ball and, like, no one around. There's nowhere for them to go. It's just the crazy things that these poor people have been put into.
Yeah. Oh my god, that crew probably cannot wait to get off.
I do like the minute they get to that room, as Matt's describing, the colored curtains and then, like, corpses. Caduceus Taliesin was just like, I'm gonna go over by the corpses. I'm gonna go hang over there. Like, very Caduceus, very Taliesin.
I mean, that's where you'll probably get the most information
about
what's going on here.
And we
if
do
you see dead people, you look at them.
And we do get an actual good use of, like, Speak with the Dead, because it hasn't really gotten cast a lot, even when they did it in the first campaign. I think one of the first times they did it was in the Oubliette with Kashaw and.
Mm-hmm.
But like they ask really good questions. Ask how he died. He says the wailing creature, and then they say which one was it? They did open one though, right, before they did all that, or was?
Yeah, because they only got really information about two of the curtains, I think. So they still had like two left, I think.
Yeah, so Caleb moved the blue banner first.
That's right.
Causing the dragon to shoot some lightning before Caduceus cast Speak with Dead. And yeah, you're right. It's kind of weird. I mean, I love Taliesin, but he didn't have many opportunities to be as clever with Percy as he is able to now in both of the characters that he's played so far. And I mean, like I said, I love the dude, but it is a little crazy sometimes when he's like casting spells and using his abilities without really knowing what they do. So sometimes you almost feel like he's not like fully engaged in knowing what his character does. But then when it comes to like role-playing stuff, like he's just so sharp and witty, and you don't expect him to like ask the perfect questions and say the perfect responses every single time someone says something to him. It's absurd. That man is a genius. But yeah, they do get like 5 good questions out of these corpses, just one after another. And some of the difference between casting Speak with Dead now is that when they were trying to speak with dead previously, they weren't always trying to speak with people who were necessarily nice or who really had any interest in helping them.
Yeah.
The difference now is these people are dead, and they're very clearly like these adventurers. They probably stumbled in here by accident and like got in over their head and got real fucked up because of it. So they probably have less of an inclination to like be hostile towards them. But
yeah,
very
and
useful.
I thought the entire puzzle itself in that room very cool. I like color puzzles. I like anything that has different, even though it wasn't that complicated of a color puzzle. I also like their solution of the hut.
That was really good.
So that's the thing. Like, I figured if there's anything good, it's probably under the red because they've already found the clue ahead of time that you've got this red cloak, blah blah blah. But no, the hut was an incredibly smart idea from Caleb. If only he had done that first.
I mean, yeah.
He didn't know any better.
So my question is, we knew that there's the dragon was behind the blue cloak, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we run into a blue dragon later, and the green cloak had some sort of like frog kind of creature behind it, and we know like the black one had a wailing kind of creature. Do you think like these creatures also exist somewhere in this magic maze kind of thing.
Yeah.
As like,
Probably.
I mean,
That would make sense, right?
yeah, I felt like it was sort of like a little foreboding kind of thing. Maybe.
Yeah, that would make sense. It seems like, first of all, I don't know. Is this something that somebody made up? Like, is Matt making this up as he goes the 100 rooms, or is this like a module? I don't know.
I mean, Matt would never use a pre-made module in his campaign.
Okay.
But I mean, he may take.
There is no, like, if this were an actual item, like, there's no. They would never make an item that is 100 rooms big. That is the size of a module, basically. So no, this is definitely something that Matt is doing himself.
I didn't think of that. Yeah.
But at the same time, there's no way to know for sure whether the dragon was telling the truth, and there are 100 rooms in this thing.
Yeah,
they could have explored all of it. It could have been 3.
That is true.
We also don't know how the dragon might not even know that there were 100 rooms, so the dragon is locked in the room that it's in.
Yeah, because like that room was very like only one way in and out, and like I'm very confused about what this was, and I want to know more though because I want them to go back in.
Yeah, I would love for it to be a mega dungeon and that they just do that for the rest of the campaign, but I'm also skeptical that it even is that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It also, but didn't Matt say something at the very end of the episode, like out of character, out of dragon character? It was just like, oh my god, this 100 room thing that I just gave you, like, or am I missing?
David's agreeing with you.
All right, cool.
He said he does remember hearing that.
So. Okay, cool. Thank you, David.
And I was thinking, Kate just kind of mentioned it too. Like, I thought maybe this could also provide them fuel for like later one shots or even like other live shows. Maybe they don't go with the live show as canon stuff anymore and just do like one shot shows. Like it could just be they go back in or whatever.
I thought the dragon was the one who originally mentioned that it was 100 rooms, and then it was mentioned again after the episode.
Yeah, the dragon was the first one to mention it. Yeah,
I think that you're right, but I think Matt confirmed it after the episode with that.
Maybe.
So, maybe. We'll see.
I mean, that's what I wanted it to be anyway, so yes. Whatever.
Back to the puzzle. And the red door. I love how they still, like, even the exit to the room was still trapped. Like, with the fire door, it was just like, oh, you have it unlocked. But you don't know if it opens. And then they're like, oh, let's open it. Oh, we can leave.
Yeah, that's what I thought happened. I mean, obviously, Meta gave me out of character. She rolled a 29, so unless it was a 30, clearly she did pretty well, probably unlocked that thing. So that's what I thought happened, was she unlocked it, but it triggered a trap because she didn't disarm whatever trap was there, or maybe it even wasn't disarmable. But for some reason, they seem to think that like she failed. But clearly that didn't happen. I'm just like, just open the door, and then finally she's like, just go open the door, and then congratulations, like, oh! you solved our room puzzle.
Yes, room 1 complete.
Into weird spiral hallway.
Yeah, that kind of messed with my mind, even trying to visualize it.
Yeah, I was thinking like MC Escher kind of like weird like stuff, and where all of a sudden you're walking upside down.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's Matt's just flavor way of saying, like, you're definitely going from one planar place to another planar place. You're not walking down an actual hallway. You're walking through a portal.
Yeah. Into the second room, which second room is Caleb's dream/nightmare.
I would have, as a player, just completely slowed down that session because I would just be all over every single one of those books as my wizard. I mean, luckily they have enough other players that started touching things almost. This is what I love about this whole episode. It was just touching things in D&D always leads to fun things, whether it's bad or good. But they definitely have a lot of touch happy.
Yeah, ABT, always be touching. That's my rule.
Yeah, as Useless Rogue said in chat, he probably would have if it weren't for Travis. And you actually do see the ramifications of that later on for how much he slowed down. But I liked that room. I liked the entire room a lot. There was so much to look at, and he had a layout for each of the rooms.
Yep.
Like he had like it wasn't necessarily even that there was gonna be a battle. They probably could have avoided every single battle. There wasn't even a battle in the first room, but they still have the map, which I think is great for visualization of something that's so not in our element of human experience as players. So,
yeah, in a room like that, you definitely do need to put hazards and other things that can happen when touched, because you have a character like Caleb and not, and they are just going to sit there and try to read every single book. And it's just going to happen. And then Matt's got to somehow make up ahead of time or on the fly what 100 books do.
Yeah.
Or what they say.
I'm interested to know what the books end up being. Like, so also in that room, and this goes to our first viewer submitted question of the night. They were describing the map of the astral, like religious arc, like with all of the different gods and whatnot. And he had mentioned how there wasn't the divine gate was not part of it. And that really struck with some people because the Divine Gate has been around for a long time. So not having it on there is kind of big. But then our first question comes from Useless Rogue, submitted through our Twitter doc that we sent out. Do you think that the frequent mention of pre-calamity magic by Matt is just him better describing the age of the sites and objects, or his way of telling them the party there's a major clue over here for future? I'm assuming he's referring to future events that could be leading to the overall arching campaign. So,
I think it's less about that and more just him trying to explain how old these things are, and to potentially maybe explain a little bit better what that means. Because in the first campaign, although we kind of knew that and had an idea of like what the calamity was, it wasn't something that ever really discussed that much from my recollection. So I think it's just, personally, I think it's him maybe just trying to flesh out like what happened in this world story-wise, not saying like this is a clue or this is something that you guys should be focusing on or anything like that.
Yeah, I feel like it fits more in as just sort of flavoring. I mean, we're getting a lot of pre-calamity magical itemy kind of ancient magics in this campaign, particularly with Ukatoa, and the other creatures that we know seem to be maybe sealed and can be resurrected. We know that these were all servants of bigger gods before the calamity and before they were put behind the divine gate and locked away. And I think it's sort of a way to flavor and to keep pushing the idea that this magic item that they're messing with is definitely old. And this, like, having a map of the planes before the divine gate kind of helped seals that. But, you know, it could be a thread later. I mean, there could be some sort of pre-calamity hijinks going on even in Jorhas. You know, just stuff that's running around. Who knows? But I feel like it was a flavory kind of thing.
See, I'm kind of on the opposite end where I think it's going to be more. I think it's going to tie in with the overall story arc of whatever this is. Kind of like how Useless Rogue said in chat, then they didn't really get into what happened until Endgame when they needed to destroy a god last campaign. And yeah, I don't think it will happen for a while. But just with all the pieces with Ford's patron being like a submerged god that's or something that's tried to give all these powers and try to be brought forth, plus the Traveler being like a newer god or whatever he is, I think that there's a lot of different things going on astrally that are kind of showing some change from the norm of post calamity divine gate thing into more possible changes.
I think that's a theme that Matt kind of wants to focus on this campaign a little bit more. They did plane travel in the first campaign a little bit. They went to like the elemental planes of fire and water, the Feywild, Shadowfell a little bit, Nine Hells for a little bit, and then Serenade was in what, Elysium, I think.
Yeah.
But there are still a lot of outer planes that they haven't explored, and I think maybe, but there's been a little bit of talk so far with like the dodecahedron and them, going through this portal into some unknown plane, and then the map of the planes and this red dot in the astral sea and stuff. That's really kind of like making that a theme in this campaign, where like they might actually be going somewhere new or somewhere cool. Like the stuff that they might want to see or stuff that might be going on might be in other planes. And that would be really cool. I really want to see that. As much as Matt like really good at fleshing out his worlds in the material plane, and how good Wildemount is, and how good Tal'Dorei was. I really want to see them go to another plane and stay there for a while. Something that's not necessarily as crazy as some of the other ones they went to, but ones that are potentially just kind of like different kinds of worlds.
Mm-hmm.
What you mean.
We'll see what happens to Grog and Pandemonium in the live show. But yeah, personally, I think that maybe it's leading towards that, and I think that would be awesome.
It's fair. But that was one of our user submitted questions, and thank you, Useless Rogue, for that. So,
well, another one, I don't have it off the top here while we're in this room, is that red book though.
That red book though.
The entire question was that ruby book though, with no name attached to it. So thank you for whoever submitted this wonderful and insightful.
I know. I was over here yelling at pull the book.
What if they would have pulled the book after it had like everybody else had pushed the red button of death and taken them to the dragon? What if they would have decided to pull the book and it took them somewhere else?
Well, and we had talked about this before stream, and Herc had some opinions on the red things in rooms.
Yeah. So it's interesting because the book has sapphires in it, so it's red and blue, I believe. But I mean, Halas's cloak is red, and it made sense once they did all of their crazy things and got hurt and figure out what was going on in the first room, that the exit was behind the red door, and they went through the red door. And now they're in the second room, and Ford pushes the red button on the window, and it teleports them out of the room, which kind of leads you to believe that red is an exit. I think that book probably led to another escape or another room or a secret passage or something like that. It's very clearly put there for a reason. It also could have just been a really huge trap, but that's what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be the exit to the room to begin with before Ford.
Yeah, I kind of thought there would be something, but I was also like over evaluating the mini map and look, because it was built up and it had the stairs, and then there was the glass window, and I thought maybe those bookcases would move and there's something like underneath that box that was built, and it could have just been blocks to make a wall there, but I was also like, what if it's like a secret thing? I didn't even think about the red being. I didn't put all that together. I would be horrible in a dungeon.
Yeah, but then we talk about the dragon room and how there's not a red exit there, so who knows? It's just a dumb theory.
But I wouldn't call it a dumb theory. It's pretty thought out. So eventually they all end up getting out of this room at different times, with Ford going super early, everybody else being like, eh. And then
fighting a cabinet.
We do get a little bit of self-fulfilling prophecy from the awesome entry, the awesome opening that they redid, where a mimic appears, and then we get a cabinet mimic, which I was really happy about.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I hate mimics.
I love them.
They're the worst.
I love them.
They're the worst, Dustin.
I like the worst things.
Yeah, I love how Caleb just ignores it. He's like, "They got this," and then
Yeah, right. He just like, continues to keep looking through desks and finding
do you
jars.
think that's Liam being metagaming and is like, this is probably a mimic. They're fine, because you know that like they're bad, but they're not that bad. Like
Yeah.
a few people of their level can handle a mimic,
Mhm.
or because I feel like Caleb would be freaking out, but he's also just overstimulated with what's going on in the room.
I think it's more overstimulation.
Yeah, I think there might have been a little bit of a metagaming, but I think he wanted to play Caleb as just being really focused on all this other stuff, because like he probably didn't really even half pay attention to what was going on. It was just so many things to like. I feel like this was like a dream room for Caleb, which I mean, it says a lot because they stayed really, behind
Really late.
after everyone else had gone through the stained glass window.
Yeah, I might be more inclined to think that if anyone else was fighting the cabinet besides Not, but because the cabinet was fighting Not and doing a lot of damage, I feel like Caleb shrugging it off is maybe not something I would expect him to do. But
that makes sense.
Yeah. They definitely tempted Caleb with that library. And you even see it at the end after everybody has pressed the button to go through. Not and Caleb are like, let's look at these books one more time. And like Caleb's so finally like, I'm done, I'm out. And Not's like, no, one more book. One more book, Mom. And it's just, that's funny. And then one of our questions that ended up coming in as well is, when I find it, do you think the library will ever tempt Caleb back into the fun ball of tricks? And I think yes.
I feel like there's a lot to be tempted back into that ball, that they probably won't go into it for a while just out of trauma. But I mean, there's a whole dragon horde in there. There's those books. I feel like eventually, I mean, there may even be hooks too that they find that they need some sort of information, and it was in this long forgotten wizard named Halas, and like, okay, we have to go delving again.
Yes.
Who knows?
There is a thought.
Oh. I mean, that ball is just tempting all the time for me. I would be constantly obsessing over it.
I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb just went in like literally the next day. It's like, well, I'm going back to the library.
The only problem I can foresee with them and really not taking any more chances with it is that it took 7 days of their life. They lost 7 days in that ball. And that could be kind of weird if you think about it. Like, that's just 1 week gone. And 1 week doesn't seem like that much, but imagine staying more than a day in the ball. That's a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to actually be prepared for like a whole 3-week vacation to go back into that place where you might not ever come back out and no one can really help you.
Magic has consequences, yo.
Yeah. On the plus side, like, they could use this as an escape if they ever need to disappear for a little bit.
That's true.
Just like hide the ball somewhere and then go inside and be like, well, we've got a mansion where time bends weird inside of it. Let's hang out here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of different things they could do with the ball in the future. But there was always the chance that they don't get out every single time that they go in because they find that there's no immediate pathway. What if they don't get the same exact path as this?
That's the question, and that's why
whether it's
like
random
if they do go back, they do need to all go in together and figure it out. If it's the same pathway, then they feel like it's probably safe enough that they can just go in whenever they want. But if not, then
if it's set to a random room each time, then that'll be a little more daunting. Yeah. Which I kind of hope, because I would love for them going in with the confidence and then being completely thrown off 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But how about that dragon, yo?
But that dragon.
Well, before they get to the dragon, they do also there is the arcane lock on the desk that Caduceus does remove, which is empty, so they assume it's another mimic and then move on. but this is mostly talked about later. But Twiggy does steal some things from the other desk for them. There was like the jar with glass beads, and then like the really nice like pen
the
and ink.
inkwell, yeah.
Yeah. We never figure out what those are yet. But I assume they're probably magical, or else they would have been called out like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Even if they're like boring magic, like the staff that they found inside the thing, where it's like, oh, did they just find like an immovable rod or something? No, they just found a staff that like gets warm.
Yeah, the hand warming staff.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they could have spent more time and Ford wouldn't have pressed the button. And they all just wouldn't have pressed the button. They probably could have explored that chest more thoroughly, because with all 7 of them ready, they could have taken out a mimic like really fast.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So even if it was a mimic, it would be like, oh, okay, move it on. But because Ford wasn't there, they didn't know where he was.
Well,
Yeah,
then when Bo
and-
went through, she inadvertently took Jester with her.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't plan on
Actions have
that.
consequences on other people.
Yeah. I figured that something awful was happening on the other side. I think that's the only reason Matt wouldn't explain what happened to him.
Mhm.
If he had just like gone back to the ship, or if he, you know, had gone to another room where like he wasn't in any immediate danger, he probably wouldn't have he would have told Ford that and was like, okay,
Yep.
well, this is where you are. We're going to see what everyone else does. It's only because there was great immediate danger on the other side that I think he waited just to see what everyone else would do.
Yeah.
Which
And he,
was a big clue to me, and I thought it was funny that you know, they were taking so long. But that's what Caleb would have done anyway.
Mhm.
yeah, I think they all did what they thought they were gonna like, because none of them wanted to necessarily just go in unless they found like maybe there was a way to release him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was kind of my thought at first, was like, oh, he's trapped somewhere. We need to release him by breaking this glass or something. So
Yeah, they need to release him from a dragon.
yeah, apparently,
He was trapped somewhere with a dragon.
yes.
So yeah, we continue to that, and there's a
moving
dragon.
on to the dragon. Ford arrives alone, and he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what's going on, and he doesn't know where his friends are and when they'll be joining him. So he is legitimately by himself, probably for one of the first times in the campaign. And he's faced with a young blue dragon, which is fun because we didn't get to see a blue dragon fight in the previous campaign because that was off stream
Mm-hmm.
when they did their against
General, whatever.
yeah, the general. So it's very interesting because I kind of knew maybe that's why he picked blue, just to kind of give it so it wasn't like another black or another whatever. But I love how Ford stalled
So
because he needed to.
about that, I thought so. Ford seems like the character, from what I've understood in this campaign, who like is a little bit unsure of himself and like is a little bit afraid of things. The fact that he took out his falchion and like showed it off and like brandished it at the dragon so early was very weird to me, and I thought the fight was going to start right there. He wasn't like making an entirely aggressive action, but when you're just summoning a weapon out of nowhere and then like showing it to a dragon, that to me sounds like you're about to start a fight.
Yeah, like when he did that, I was like, oh, but your friends aren't here yet. No, don't take out a weapon, because like that's all the dragons have to deal with. There's people like pulling out weapons and trying to kill him. I was really worried about that because I feel like that also came out like super early.
Yeah, I mean, you got to pull out a lot less than that to get shot here.
Yeah.
Sorry for being political again, but yeah, I think that was a bad idea.
Mm.
It turns out that like Matt kind of played it off like the dragon wasn't immediately intimidated, and why would he be, honestly?
Yeah.
But I thought things were going to get real bad when that happened. But he still stalled long enough, I guess, to get at least some friends.
Yeah, because at least by the time the dragon finally attacked, not Caduceus, Jester and Bo finally show up. And for the rest of the party, they're gonna show up and immediately be like, assaulted with the fact that there is a blue dragon attacking them.
Also, John Allison mentioned that that room was just perfectly built for a blue dragon death room, because like those hallways just were perfect, like to get down there to activate a thing, but you're also just in a perfect line to be murdered.
Yeah, not quite a lair, but definitely giving advantage to the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a good thing there wasn't a lair, because otherwise things would have gone worse. So, with the whole blue dragon fight, I was very interested to see how they were going to try to get out of it. I didn't pick up on any clues. Like, I don't know how they necessarily figured out that they needed to put cold damage into the crystals.
It was luck from Jesser's Hellish Rebuke.
She did Hellish.
Okay.
She was Hellish Rebuke, and she was backed by the crystal, and just by luck she did that, and the magic got sucked in. Like, I don't. Like, if they had to try and figure out how to activate those, I don't think there would have been. I think it would have been really close to a TPK, because.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they tried too much to figure out what was going on, and like if they had just maybe
focused on
their
the dragon
efforts
and then
on
wait
fighting the dragon. But I mean, in character, I don't know if any of them would know that. Like, none of them have fought a dragon before.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how long it's going to take for their friends to get there, if their friends are even coming. So it does make sense that like running is maybe your best or first instinct. But without like an immediately obvious way to exit, it makes sense to me that like you're gonna fight this out. And
Mm-hmm.
after a while, it was showing that the dragon was taking a pretty decent amount of damage. So I was surprised that they were so focused on trying to leave, even 3/4 and towards the end of the fight. If they had just grouped together and it did what they needed to do, they probably could have taken it down a lot easier.
Yeah, I thought like they could have, if they had focused a little more, it would have not probably been that much of a threat. Because it was getting beat up pretty bad, like by the end of it. By the time they started disappearing.
Yeah, I also think that they were at the right level. Matt picked the right like CR to have them fight this. Like, they were at the right level to fight this enemy, where they could have either ran or fought, and most likely they would be okay.
I mean, honestly, like I believe, I could be making this up, but I believe they're like CR7, which should be pretty easy for a group of their caliber.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason this fight is more difficult is because of the terrain. I feel like all dragon fights should have terrain advantage to the dragon, because they're smart enough to know that this is where they'll live or where they'll be, because they know that stuff ahead of time. But the reason this was difficult is because it was very clearly not a place where most people would have all come together. It's designed in an area where someone's going to come in first, and then maybe it might be a round or two, but there's going to be a little bit of a delay before everyone gets through while they figure out what's going on. And that's what made it a pretty good, reasonable fight. And I think that's really cool, a really good way of, tailoring the balance of fights, not just by the number of enemies or how strong it is or adding HP, but adding more environmental hazards with who can actually fight this person when, or this creature when.
Plus, it makes for a really great story when eventually Caleb and Not come falling through, and I just imagined it as sort of like them falling, and like that that anime like stop where the eyes meet, and like they just recognize, oh, it's a dragon. Like, I just see them falling and being like,
yes,
what the fuck? Because it's like it was already pretty good into the fight by the time those two showed up.
What, it was round 4 or round 5?
It was something like that. But
yeah. Which honestly, like, if you think about how a round's only 6 seconds, I would have made them wait longer. Like, yeah, because they were probably trying to get those books.
Yeah, it always gets fuzzy when it gets into that time between battling and outside of battling.
Though, to be fair, time functions differently.
I know, but like just trying to like gauge how much time you spent scrambling for books.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. So
the other interesting thing is, as soon as it starts, Bo immediately just crushes and uses her red elemental gem, which I forgot she had. I mean, she got that a while ago. And those are always fun to use. Basically, just summons a fire elemental that is somewhat friendly. It's friendly to you until you lose concentration. And I thought that was a really smart move. It's just, here's a temporary ally. So that was really like smart. On
it was really smart.
Right now.
And it was it gave it gave them some good extra damage, which they needed before they had some of their more bigger damage people show up.
It also gave them a tank since they didn't have Yasha.
True.
So with even the first lightning blast that just hit the fire elemental was 54 points of damage, I think. That's a lot. That's a lot. So
the breath is.
It's a good. No, I know. It's a good thing that it soaked it up and not a character soaked that up.
Yeah, in regards to that too, it didn't matter because Bo succeeded on her save. But a thing that I think a lot of people forget, or at least I forget, is that the dodge action gives you advantage on deck saves. Everyone's like, what happens with the dodge action? Oh, everyone has disadvantage on attacks against you. But also, you have advantage on deck saves, which is pretty nice.
Yeah. I didn't think about that.
And I know, that's the also thing, the things that you can do with your action instead of attacking is a thing that not a lot of people remember that you could do. Because I was yelling them, like, okay, you can disengage as an action, like, you can get away.
Yeah.
Though, it will come into it a little bit more. That last move by Not.
So, I actually have a thing about that.
Okay.
We'll get there in a few minutes. I mean, does anything else really happen? It's pretty much just
there's not
evading fire and then fighty.
They solve the puzzle to get and then the orbs get activated, and then it's
I like the Armor of Agathis head bug. That was so funny. I loved it.
It'd be really funny if that didn't work. If that one didn't need cold damage or something, and that's what I was
hoping. I was hoping that it was that way, but. Apparently I'm sadistic sometimes.
So let's get rulesy here for a second. So people aren't always clear about what they're doing. They just assume that other people know, and that kind of happens in a pretty big way in the middle of this fight because I believe Bo tells the fire elemental to ready an attack if the dragon comes in range.
Yeah.
Jester polymorphs the dragon into a crimson weasel, which then comes in range. So Matt rules it that the fire elemental is going to attack the weasel, even though I don't I think Marisha just said that it'll attack if the creature comes in range. How do you guys feel about that? It felt a little bit kind of DM forceful to me. It's oh well, you said he was going to attack a thing, and even though it's not the thing that it is anymore, the fire elemental is definitely going to attack it.
Yeah, when I was thinking about that as and I do this a few times, well, how would I have ruled that? And I don't think I would have ruled it as because if you had said attack the dragon when it comes in range, I don't think that the fire elemental is going to have the cognitive process to be oh, that is now the dragon. It's a small weasel now.
I mean, it was looking at the dragon, and
and then it turns
smart creatures, but they're grog smart creatures. They have this intelligence of 6.
Yeah. And then, I don't know. It was an interesting thing. I don't know how I felt about it because I don't know if I would have made the same call. But
that's where.
But is that right or is that wrong? I mean,
everybody's different.
I agree with Matt's ruling. I would not have made the same call, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
I agree that Matt had the right to make that call.
Well, of course. I mean, Matt can do whatever he wants, and it made for a more intense fight.
For sure.
If that had gone through the way that they intended it, though, it wouldn't have been as bad of a fight as it was closer to the end.
And maybe he made that for the dramatic sort of call too. I don't know.
I mean, that's how it goes. It's the DM's job to guide the story along and make it tense and fun, and that's part of it. I mean, there's definitely an idea of like, you want to make this, like more balanced and more like fun. So it's like, kind of like an intense situation. And in the end, when the players like have their heroic moment and defeat the thing, then it's, everyone cheers and whatnot. But there's also, the idea of, well, the players, they did a really cool thing and outsmarted it. And even though they got by pretty easily, you can also be proud of them at figuring things out and finding an alternative way to do something. So there's like pros and cons for both. But I personally, probably would have not rolled it the same way either. But I mean, it didn't change a ton entirely at the end.
Because even David says in chat, between the fall and the damage from being in proximity with the elemental, I don't think the attack would have made the difference, and he would have just popped back up because of fire.
There would have been a fair number of turns that have gone in that difference, and I think that is the turning point with that. But either way, I mean, it happened as it was, and they still won. I don't know if there's anything else that happens in the middle before
they all start disappearing.
No, and I think that other than the knot. I mean, there was some
thing and
good plays.
Bo disappearing and letting the fire elemental run free of her control.
Yeah.
Didn't think about that, but that's fine.
Nope.
If she would have stayed in the room just right next to the orb, I think that would have been the best idea. Just keep the fire elemental under her like telepathic control.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have wanted to get out of there too.
Well, she didn't. Yeah. The thing with Bo is that she didn't know. She just assumed that it was going to be a puzzle to get out. Like, she assumed that it was like the ball that got them there, and so she would have to like do a thing. So she was, in Bo's decision, she was trying to prep the escape because she thought she had to maybe manipulate some things. But then when she touched it, she poofed out. So
yeah, they didn't know at that point what that orb did. She just went and touched it.
And I think that's the fun thing too. Like, I mean, that's a really good thing that changes the pace and the threat of this battle. Is that in character she made a choice because that character thought it was a certain way and then it wasn't. It's not like nothing to call out for because
it's just like when Ford touched it, man. You just do it. Always be touching.
Always be touching.
I don't think it's her fault at all, but I just thought that was very much a like, had she stayed, whatever. It happens. Especially, it also then added in a different element to it, which is people leaving at different times. We had people arriving at different times. Mm-hmm. Now, not everybody's leaving at the same time, too. And they don't know if people are going to actually get out or not. Like,
again, the cinematic moments of this with like Caleb coming out, or not Caleb, Caduceus coming out of stone, saying, "We're running, it's bad," just as like Caleb and Not get there. And people just start running, and they're still there, they're like still trying to get, because it's only like 6 seconds around, they're trying to get their bearings, and people are already like, yeah, we've been here for a while, and we're moving.
I love how like that was such a slow burn when that happened, because Caduceus had cast Meld with Stone and went inside the wall to put out the fire and kind of hide from the dragon, and you picture Caduceus just walking out of stone and just saying, "We're running, it's bad." Everyone like kind of laughed for a second, and then it just went on as they like thought about it, and then continued to laugh for like 30 seconds. It's just like the more you thought about it, the funnier it got.
Yeah, like wait a minute, he just walked out of the wall and said that just as people are right. Like, I loved how everyone slowly was picturing it in their head and then realizing, oh, that's just hilarious.
Yeah. So in regards to not actually getting out and what she does at the end of her turn, or at the end of the fight, but the very first thing that happens to Not, I believe, after she and Caleb fall in to the ceiling, is she's attacked by the fire elemental. Matt had Sam roll a die to find out if it would attack Not or attack the dragon, and Sam rolled poorly and it attacked Not. That should have set Not aflame. They did not mention that, and Not did not roll damage at the start of her next turn, which came up a couple rounds after that, which seriously would have changed how the end of that fight happened, as we know that Not escaped with exactly 1 HP after intentionally provoking an attack of opportunity from the dragon.
Yeah, that's didn't think about that, but wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's crazy. Do you think that's just not actually doing that at the end? Do you think that's just like tactical playing, or do you think that that's like really what Not would have done, like in character, role play wise, like fight me, look at me, because like she didn't really describe that she was like taunting the dragon intentionally or anything like that.
I think that was Sam more than Not.
Yeah.
I think Not would have done that for Jester, but because Sam didn't describe Not as being like hit me over here as she walks away. I think that was more Sam just being Sam and like sacrificing his own character to try to make sure Jester got out.
Well, when you have a like on the verge of tears Laura Bailey next to you, like you have to do everything for her, and I think that's just what it comes down to.
Yeah, you must. Yeah, you have to. I mean, that's just.
It's the most important thing in the world.
It's like she just has a constant aura of protection, or like you must protect her kind of aura. Mm-hmm. It's like, yes, I will do anything for you. I will take this reaction so that you can get away.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But like you mentioned, Dustin, you were hinting towards like all Jester needed to do was use her action to disengage and then run away, and then she would never even have that attack of opportunity.
Yeah, and see that's the thing. Like, you're always everything. Even in a game with pros like Mercer and these guys who've been playing for like years, there's so much that happens. You're always gonna like not think about a thing or overlook a thing, and then when you go back and you're like thinking about it and like, oh, that could have fucked us big time.
Yeah, I mean it's just a very high stress situation too.
There's always something that's going to slip through the cracks, and it's easier after the fact to be like, oh, that you missed that, but like when you're in that, you're just fighting for your life or the lives of your PCs.
So,
but it was a good move. I mean, had disengage as an action not also been a thing, but. It still played out story-wise. It was a good moment, and it gives them some good fuel for RPing between those two characters, later on too.
Yeah, a thing that, just as an aside, that I really love about Critical Role is, as big as things have gotten this year in the past couple of years. I mean, it's constantly grown, but Campaign 2 has just gotten so much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
The way and them having their own company and like really kind of relying on this like monetarily, I really love how Matt still does not pull any punches. Like they literally just had this cinematic made, which I'm sure they paid pretty good money for, and took like 4 to 5 months to create or whatever. And then Matt's still like, yeah, but here's a dragon, and also all of these bad things are happening to you, and you're all not going to fight it at once, and your characters might die. And like, can you imagine like how crazy that would be if like something like this new cinematic came out and then a character died this week?
Yeah,
I thought that was gonna happen.
But like,
I thought
that's what makes this show so good is that it's so authentic.
Yeah,
or they just have really good writing.
Oh yes, the writers though. That is the one thing that I remember them keeping very constant throughout their entire time, is that no matter what happens, our game will be our game, and that is their motto, and I love it.
Yeah, and I mean I agree that's always been the thing, but before they were their own company, before they invested so much money into this, I was like, it's really easy for them to do that. But now that Critical Role is their Critical Role, I still think it's really refreshing to see that like nothing has changed.
Yeah, they don't cave into any sort of pressure or anything to keep characters alive or anything like that. Like, it still comes down to if it's the dice that decide it, it's the dice that decide it.
Dungeons and Dragons.
It's the best.
And we had both of those things in this episode.
Yeah.
And we normally don't have either.
So, we got both. We got both of the D's in this.
Yeah. You just get a D on either side. I couldn't find a way to say that without sounding
so they get out.
Moving on. They get out and they all pop back into existence, and suddenly everybody's surrounding them downstairs where they had left. And they're like, "What happened?" And it's like, "Oh, you've been gone for 7 or 10 days. I don't remember.
Seven days, and
7 days,
the boat's
and we're in
fixed.
port, and the
Time
boat's
jump.
fixed, and we need to pay." And everybody's like, "Oh." So, a question that we did get from our Google Doc is, who do you think got to explain the ball leader to the harbor master, and how do you imagine that went? So Herc had a thought.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is the Mighty Nine hired this crew. The Mighty Nine owns this ship. The only member of the Mighty Nine that still is on the ship is Yasha. So she is, by, everyone else being gone, the leader. It doesn't necessarily mean she's like the best person to do anything. It also doesn't mean, she's the CEO of like company ball eater right now, and she can divvy up whatever she sees fit. And they have to listen to her because she's technically paying them, kind of, but not actually yet. So I think it's Yasha. I don't know if she would go up and talk to everything herself. I think she would, but she also could just have Orly or someone else who's, knows what they're doing and is charismatic actually do the talking.
Yeah.
But I mean, a scene of just a harbor master and Yasha and him asking, "What's the name of your ship?" and Yasha just stone faced the ball leader and like just that really awkward, just like she's like this big stoic, like sort of intimidating thing, and just like, yeah, it's the ball leader. Like, I don't know what else you want me to tell you. Like, just do the thing. I like that idea of like, who are you people?
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, that was a good question. I'm glad that you submitted that, Useless Rogue. Thank you for that. And then we get to the end episode where everybody seems to be super sad when they exit, and like people start going off. Jester almost made me cry after. Oh my god, I don't know what happened, but like they all said goodbye to Twiggy, and because Twiggy's like, "I gotta keep moving, but here's this ball."
Don't eat it, and then they'll. I mean,
Yeah.
if they do eat it, then at least they'll match their ship's name. But
Oh.
it is funny that they called it the ball leader.
And then they got a ball.
This is the ball episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were eaten by a ball, technically.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then Twiggy said goodbye. Caleb was just real sad. Knot was real sad. Jester was real sad. Ford was kind of real sad. And then there's Bo and Caduceus, who are just like, "Yeah, we did pretty good, I thought."
I liked the line that Caduceus said. This goes back to just like how good like Taliesin is just coming up like lines with his characters. Whether sometimes he plays the class, to its best, but like we'll be fine, and we'll be there to like remind them that they're also okay because they don't think they did that great or whatever. And I'm just like, he just comes up with these lines that should just be like a whole book of just Taliesin sayings.
Yes.
Yep.
But it was, it's going to be a fun decompression RP kind of episodes in the next couple ones, I imagine, to kind of
I love those episodes.
delve into whatever's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In regards to like the end of the dragon fight, Caduceus at the end believes Twiggy, and I'm sure everyone will believe Caduceus because who doesn't listen to anything Caduceus says or listen to everything Caduceus says? I am a little surprised that they didn't try to stick it out and then get all of the stuff that was in there.
Mhm.
Even Twiggy, I mean, all she cares about is a tooth. Man, that's so surprising. I know not everyone is money motivated, but when you're out on your own and like you don't really have anything, like, man, that's a whole life right there. You just like take a handful of platinum and just walk out of there.
Yeah.
But we'll see if they can get back to it or whatever. I mean,
We'll
for
see.
now, the ball gives them some money. So
Yeah, we don't know how that goes because it's been halving every time they did it. So like it might have been a finite source.
Or does it have to like recharge or?
Yeah, it might just be like a daily thing.
Or maybe that is the ploy to get you interested in, because then the minute it stops spitting out money, then you're like, you keep trying and you end up in the pocket. Who knows? I mean, it's definitely...
That's what I was thinking the wizard was trying to do.
Bait, and we know that the dragon said that there's more pockets out there, so, like, you know, this could show up again.
Yes, so we get to the end of the episode. Us as podcasters still have 3 more questions to answer from our thing. So, first of all, they all kind of go together. What do you think is in the other 97 chambers of Hollis Manor? What else do we think is in those 97 chambers?
Well, like you mentioned before, probably things related to the other 2 statues that were in the first room. Since we did see a blue dragon, there was that like monstrous humanoid green creature that was like deformed or something, so something related to that, and then potentially the wailing one. Otherwise,
the depths of Mercer's imagination, which is the scariest thing of all.
Yeah.
Yes. There's so much like they could do to really expand on the lore, even just in the library. Like, they expand on the lore a lot there. I think there's so much more he could do with that kind of stuff as well. There could be another library.
Let's hope that if Matt's writing another book, that it has the 100 bedroom mage module built into it, because I'll buy it.
So here's the book, and then here's the module.
Yeah. Supplemental.
Yes. Next off, we've seen 3 rooms of the 100 room Super Fun Ball. What death trap room would you design for? I have mine. So mine would be some sort of logic puzzle that required mathematics, because everybody knows adventurers hate math. Right there. No one would ever get
You're a horrible person.
Not Caleb. But
Caleb other than Caleb.
Math.
I don't know what kind of death trap I would put. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Mostly because I don't want to give away any hints to if I build a death trap. This is just a trick to get me to spill my secret rooms.
No one I actually DM for watches this, but I'm still not going to spill. Never know.
Yeah. And then lastly, should the Nine be allowed to keep the fun ball of problems?
It's their ball. They can do what they want with their balls.
It's in their court.
Yeah. I wonder if somebody's going to be searching for it, I think is my only question. Like, obviously, we know somebody was looking at it, but I don't know how...
I mean, there might be someone who's collecting, like, items of Halas. Like, we don't know. Like, we'll find out.
I mean, they already have a stolen ball. So, like, what's another one?
They have 2! They have 2 balls, guys!
They do.
2 balls that didn't belong to them.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Take a name.
Just taking other people's balls. And they're eating them.
Good ending, Kirk. Thanks.
Yep.
So,
we did it.
Right, so we did it, guys. We made it through that very long and fun episode. I don't even know. So, I have been Ben at Bardic Puppy on Twitter. Thank you all for joining us.
And I have been Dusty at GeoNerd on Twitter. Thank you.
And I'm Herky. Don't follow me.
There we go. As a note, we will have our next live broadcast not next week, because we decided that a good way to recap what happens after having 3 weeks off from Critical Role will be to have our next broadcast on January the 6th, before the next episode of Critical Role on the 10th. So tune in live for us on the 6th of January 2019 after the new year has started, and we'll see you there.
Have a great break. Happy holidays. Yeah. Goodbye. Thank you
love
for joining us. We love
Happy
you all.
Happy Festivus. Whatever that thing is.
Rest of us.
Just gonna end it when it goes thunder. I know, Kate. I know.
Are you pulling a Matt?